Welcome to my 173rd video on my work with OO gauge. In this part I'll be showing the vintage Hornby Dublo goods depot that I bought to go on the goods branch of my Dublo 3-rail tabletop railway. This just arrived in the post. It needed a bit of fixing up, so I got it right onto the bench, did the fixes as best as I could, and got the building into place on the tabletop. The depot had been packed extremely well for shipping, swaddled in plastic and bubble wrap, then placed inside a box, then that box placed inside a much larger box with airbags around it. So I certainly couldn't complain about the packaging, and nothing was damaged in transit. The crane had been detached for shipping, probably a wise decision. The sliding door also came loose. Also, the depot would originally have had two sliding doors, one for the front and one for the back, but one of those doors was missing in this case. At least the crane still had its hook. That's another part that's rather prone to go missing. I decided that I'd better do something about making a door for the side that didn't have one. I had some ratio plastic sheet that was actually supposed to represent brickwork. I thought that this might work as well as anything. I marked the size for the door on the ratio sheet using the original door that I did have. Then I cut out that piece of sheet. I cut as deep as I could with a sharp knife and then bent and snapped, and then finished off with sanding. I figured that I'd be more often looking at the back of the depot as I operated the layout, so I put the good original door on the back. These are sliding doors. They just fit between grooves on the bottom and a protrusion from the roof on the top, but they fall out quite easily when the building is being moved. I put my improvised door on the track side of the building. I'd glued another piece from the ratio sheeting onto one side as a handle. The ratio sheeting had those kind of ridges along the edge of it. My new door fitted into the grooves for sliding quite okay. I don't think it looks violently out of place. The crane needs to be attached to the base using a screw and washer so that it can pivot. The screw and washer had been fitted onto the crane for shipping. Now I took them off and got the crane into place. You can see the screw and washer at the bottom here. So there's the depot from the track side after my initial assembly. And here it is from the back, which, as I said, is how I'll more commonly be looking at it. I did think that this big knot in the rigging of the crane looked pretty bad. If it hadn't been for this knot, I probably wouldn't have re-rigged the crane. But given that I really wanted that knot gone, I decided that I'd just replace the crane rigging completely. I cut the string that was supporting the jib and removed it. I decided to use this black synthetic twine for the rigging. This is something I actually bought for my work with antique golf clubs. I completely unwound the string for the hook. It was quite long. I cut the end of that string and removed the string and the hook. I attached a piece of my black twine to the hook. Actually, this piece turned out to be too short, so I scrapped it and tried again with a longer piece. The cord from the hook goes over the pulley at the end of the jib and then down inside the frame of the jib, then under the pivoting bar at the base of the jib to be attached to its winding handle. Then a second piece of twine is used to control the jib. This attaches through the hole at the top of the jib, as seen here. Then that twine just goes straight back and attaches to the back winding handle so that the jib can be raised and lowered. The winding handles have flats on one side at the top, as seen here, and little springs press against these flats to hold the winding handles in position so they won't just turn freely, but still allow you to turn them manually. There are holes in the winding handles through which you pass the twine when attaching it. Once attached, I wound the twine onto the winding handle so that it supported the jib in a raised position. I oiled the winding handles and their springs to help things to work better, but I didn't bother to try to remove the rust. The result wasn't perfect, but I do think that it made the crane look better than it did with a knotted string. I got the depot onto the tabletop. Here it is beside the paper template that I'd made as a placeholder. And And here's the depot in place with the paper template removed. This is as the depot will be most commonly seen from where I normally stand to operate the layout. Here's the depot from the track side with the wagons I bought this past weekend at the Breslau train show drawn up beside it. I suppose it might make more sense to move the depot away from the end of the line a bit to make it easier for different wagons to be drawn up against it. Here's a slightly closer view. I think there's actually supposed to be a door in that small end doorway as well, but its absence isn't very obvious. And here again from the back, I think I do prefer the black thread on the crane. The paint on the crane is quite chipped, but I don't think I'm going to do anything about that. The crane is metal, but the rest of the depot is made of plastic apart from a couple of assembly nuts. Here's the crane again from the other side. I do like to have cranes on my railway, although I'm not sure that I'll actually be lifting anything much with this one. I might have a go at some point, though. I was trying to see when this goods depot came out. It isn't in the 1958 UK catalogue that I have, but it is in the 1962 catalogue, priced at £1 9 shillings. Not cheap. I left England for Canada 12 years after that in 1974, and my gross weekly wage in my last job selling office equipment in a store was £20. Mind you, my bedsit rent was only £5 a week. So there we are. The goods depot is now in place on the tabletop. The only paper template remaining is for the engine shed at back right here, and I'm currently in the process of working on building the Super Quick kit for that. However, ironically, Super Quick kits are not, despite the name, particularly quick to build, for me anyway. It typically takes me several days to complete a Super Quick build, so it'll likely be towards the end of the week before I get the engine shed done. Although so far it doesn't seem to be a terribly complicated build as Super Quick kits go. Unless something dynamic happens during the week, the Super Quick engine shed card kit build should be my next video.